Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Noelle and this is Influence Colorist, and it's time for completed pages, so let's get into it. So my first couple pages are going to be from Rita Berman's Her Trip Around Asia, and for this book I've decided I'm picking a dominant color for each country. And so for Japan I have picked pink. I figured with all the cherry blossom flowers on the pages that could be an easy color to do, and not necessarily using the same shade of pink throughout the Japan pages, but just making sure I have a lot of pink in those pages. All right, so these are the pages that I did. This one I do have a video on, titled something like My First Time Coloring in this book. And yeah, I'm just really happy with the way these pages turned out. I wanted a very kind of romantic feel with soft pinks and muted greens. I think there's like this nice soft glow from the lantern, like they're in a shaded area from the cherry blossom canopy. And let's see. I did a layer of pan pastel in pink in the flowers, in the boats, I think in the bridge, like pretty much everywhere I knew I wanted pink, and that kind of allowed me to see like the color balance, like how it was going to look with so much pink. And then I used multiple color pencils, Brute Ferners, Prismas, and Luminance. And let's see, for the water, I did the same thing, pan pastel first in like a teal color, and then the color pencils. And I tried to add a little reflection from like the sun, and then from the pink in the bridge, and then also down here, a little bit of pink in the water. And then what I think helped the water a lot was using the white Posca, covering up the black line art. I just kind of did a scribbly line there, and then added some little drops of water up along here. I mean, come on, look at how cute those little kitties are. The whole page is just so sweet. All right, so since I had all the colors for this out, I went ahead and did the companion page. And yeah, I'm in love with this page too. Like the colors of the lantern and the pagoda, I think, are just so pretty. And then the little dog, the little bird, just, I don't know, the whole thing is just like so cute and sweet. And let's see, I used same color pencils, the pan pastel for the flowers, white Posca for like the little flowers, highlighting the food, some yellow paint pens for inside those flowers. Oh, and because I wanted it to have that feel of being under the canopy of flowers, I did create more like purple shadows for underneath like all these items. So yeah, all right, so there are those pages. Beautiful illustrations. All right, the next page is going to come from Mystery Island by Coco. And I was wanting more of a fall color palette this time, and most of these pages are pretty tropical looking, but I did find this one kind of in the forest, lots of mushrooms, perfect for fall color palettes. And I was inspired by this illustration, which came from a gaming app called Art Puzzle, which I've been having a lot of fun with. I love the dark, rich greens and rust colors, but then there's some lighter greens and like some pops of purple and some light blue. So yeah, I think it all works really well together. This is the chameleon character in the book. There's also a frog and an axolotl. So I was trying to make it look like she's got the stripes like a chameleon. They're subtle, but they're there. Yeah, so I used alcohol marker as a base, and then a color pencil, which I think I used Prismacolor pencils for shading, and some paint pens for highlighting in some different areas. So yeah, super cute book. I believe it is new this year by Coco. Okay, next page is going to be, ooh, heavy book, Magic from Magic Hour by Karolina Kubikowska. And I also did another quick kind of short video on this one. This is, I think it's under like swatching out Roman Schmalls and Calero watercolors. And so yes, I used the Roman Schmalls watercolors. I got a few new shades. And then I also got a brand called Royal Talons. And I just got one color. It's called Dusk Green, which is a really beautiful kind of deep green. And so my first lay down of color was a little too intense. So I tried to soften that a little bit. But yeah, it's a little darker than I wanted. But yeah, I kind of wanted this greens and yellows in the background to look more like plants or like kind of out of focus fuzzy background, but it ended up looking more like a galaxy, so I was like, oh, that's cool, I'll just go with that. So then I did some white acrylic paint splatters just to kind of bring home that idea. And let's see, I used the Calero watercolor, they're like metallic watercolors for her dress, which I was still wanting to kind of it to look like it's a sheer material. So yeah, I like how it's not like opaque, so you can, you know, still see through that. And then I used the sterling silver of the metallic watercolors. So the artist has all this little like dot work and like sparkles around her and up through the page, almost like little fairy dust or something. So I used that sterling silver on top of that, but I felt like it needed just a little bit more intense sparkle, so I used some stickles. And let's see if I can get up closer. There we go. So yeah, nice shimmer and sparkle in there. So yeah, most of it was the watercolor, and then I just do color pencil over the leaves just to give it a little bit more shading and depth. I think I added some orange in there too, some color pencil in the berries, and then in the butterfly. All right, yes, I've been really having fun with watercolors in this book. All right, next page will be from The Cutest Elves by Rachel Mintz. And I did, let's see, I did this page in my flip through of this book. So mostly based with alcohol markers and then color pencil shading on top of that. And then I did the skin with pan pastels, and then it kind of went downhill from there. I'm not sure what was going on, but I was having a really hard time with the pencil shading over the pastels in her face. It may be because it's such a large area that it's harder to kind of hide any issues or inconsistencies with the pan pastel or pencils. I don't know what was going on, but I was struggling quite a bit. So I decided to be done with it, and because there's pan pastels, I used a fixative to spray it down, which I've done, you know, every single time I use pan pastels. And the spray, because it makes the paper, you know, wet, the black backing was coming through, which at first I wasn't that concerned because once it dries, then you usually don't see it. But that was not the case with this one. After it dried, you could still see the black coming through like really bad, and it made it look so horrible. So I was really upset about it, and I just was like, well, I'm going to start over because it's a workable fixative. You can put stuff on top of it. So I just went through with the pan pastels again, and they actually went over pretty well. And instead of concentrating on the shading with color pencils, I just shaded with pan pastel. You know, I took a darker shade and just did that instead. I think I used a little color pencil maybe to define her nose, because after all of that, you couldn't really see her nose very well. So I don't know how well I got it. Yeah, and you can still see the black kind of poking through. So again, I don't know if it's like the ink off the pages or what was going on, but anyway, let's move on. So the flowers in the background, the grayscale images, or grayscale image, made it look like all the flowers in the background were kind of this out of focus look. So to keep that, after I used the markers to color everything in, they don't look out of focus. You know, they look pretty sharp because the marker line has a distinct like hard line to it. So I went over it with pan pastel, just, you know, brushed over, you know, and then if it got on here, I just erased some. But that really helped soften those edges and help create more of that out of focus look. So yeah, paint pens to highlight some of these things in the flowers, and like alcohol markers pretty much for everything else. I think the hair turned out pretty. Yeah, so it was just the face that I had issues with. So I'm hoping to have better luck with my next pictures, but yeah, I'm kind of done with this one. All right, let's move on. All right, next page will be from my walk through the seasons, I believe is something like that with the translation. And this is another Rita Berman book. So lovely, lovely images. And I did this sweet little page here. Again, I was looking more for fall tones. So I did all the flowers and the leaves and the fairies in warm colors. And then the mice are in like these cool gray shades, which I think makes them really stand up or stand out against the warm colors. I used a variety of color pencils, some luminance, some polychromos, and black widows. And I used Posca for highlights and fine liners to help darken up some of the lines. So after coloring them, sometimes they get kind of cloudy, so I wanted some of the things like the tails and just like the edges of the mice to kind of stand out a little bit more. And then I used, it's the brand Pebbles, chalk pastels for the background, and just a nice like warm yellow shade. Yeah, pretty little page there. All right, next page will be in Fairies in Dreamland. This is by Denyse. Klette, I believe is how you pronounce her name. So I had a lot of fun working in this book a few months ago, so I was really looking forward to working in it and again, and creating something completely, like a completely different color scheme than this one. So I did this one, and then I also did the front cover, which is pretty much the same colors as that other one. So very kind of blue sky, nighttime sky background. But this time, since I was wanting more fall shades, I went with a more orange background, and still kind of following the same concept as my other pages, which is just a like dark kind of bolder background, or a solid kind of bolder background. Limited color palette, and then using kind of just a wash of color for these pillows and blankets, hoping to make the important image, like the main image, stand out a little bit more, which I think definitely helps on this page. So I used the Gallery oil pastels again for the background. which worked really well, except there's a few areas I'm not sure why. You know, maybe it's like oils on the skin, you know, from me touching it in the corners. It just, for some reason, doesn't blend out, but like every other area blended out just fine. So yeah, I don't know if it's from that or not. But yeah, I'm really liking the, you know, the oil pastels. So everything else is done with alcohol markers to base. The pig, the flowers, this branch here is all alcohol markers, and then color pencils on top of that, which were Prisma color pencils. And then I use the water brush and water-based markers. So I use it kind of like a watercolor and just do like a wash of color for inside these pillows. I think I just started out with, I think I wanted like a light green. And then I was like, oh no, I kind of want to add some like gray shading in here. And then I was like, oh, pink might be good. So yeah, there's more colors than I like originally thought of, but it's still like nice and light. You know, I want it to look kind of like linens, you know, so just like very light and like a wash of color. So I think it still has that effect. I'm not sure if I like all the colors in there or not. So speaking of colors, I'm pretty happy with the color palette. I'm not sure how I feel about it entirely. Like, I like the orange with these red flowers and with the pink, but I'm not sold on this like periwinkle color. I'm not sure why I chose that color. It does stand out nicely against like this kind of darker brownish burgundy color. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't do it like this green. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's very unique. Let's say that. And I also used some paint pens to highlight these little dots. So these were all like little black lines, or yeah, black dots in here. So just to highlight those, to show those off a little bit more. Highlights in the little pig here. I think the pig is super cute, sleeping there. So yeah, still fun book. I'm excited for her. I think she's got a new book coming out next year, like birds, something with birds in paradise maybe. All right, so that is Fairies in Dreamland. Okay, next one is going to come from Yippee, Kawaii, Yay, Mandala Magic Volume 1 by Dani Banani of Funusual Suspects. And let's see, this one I did the camping one. This is called Camping Cuties. Here is the color palette I used. These books you can purchase from Etsy. There's a volume 1 and a volume 2, and she's got a ton of cute like stickers on there, and I think some other like little clay things that she does, but yeah, very, very cute. So I love the color palette for this kind of foresty camping scene. And yeah, there's just like those like muted and olivey greens, but then you have the pop of the orange. And let's see, I used alcohol markers for everything. Although except, I forgot, I did use color pencil for the sky and for the grass. So what happened was I colored the tints first in this color green, and then colored everything else, and then I did the color pencil last, and I felt like the green color pencil blended in too much with the tints, and I wanted the tints to stand out a little bit more. So I found a darker green and put that on top. So I think that definitely helped. It still has that same feel to it, but yeah, it doesn't, there's a difference between the tint and the grass now. So yeah, these pages always bring a smile to my face. They're so cute. All right, there is that one. All right, the next one is going to come from Disney Mandalas. This is by Hachette Heroes. And I did The Lion King. So let me find that. Oh, here it is. And this one was nice because really the only thing that repeated was this like motif in the background. All the other characters were just like a one and done, which I love. So, Ohuhu alcohol markers for pretty much everything. I don't think I color penciled shaded at all. I just shaded with the markers. And oh, I did use paint pens to kind of highlight some things in the hair, probably added extra highlights in the eyes, but yeah, everything else was marker. All right, there is The Lion King. All right, so the next book I was sent, and I did a flip and a color video on this one. So not a book I would normally gravitate towards, but I'm actually going to use it to kind of play around with color palettes. So, you know, sometimes when you see a color palette from images online, they don't always translate well to a coloring page. So, you know, it depends on like how you balance the colors or using them in different combinations. So I thought this might be a way to kind of play around with those ideas before actually using it on a page. So that is what I did. I found a color palette from Sarah Renee Clark. It's from her, I think it was like 25 fall color palettes on her website. And then I liked this one. I think I was just gravitating towards the picture itself. It's very purple heavy with a very light green and then a dark orange mixed in there. I wanted to use mostly markers, but that really light green was hard to find. So I pulled a Prisma color pencil, and then I have some other color pencils kind of for those different shades for those main colors. All right, so yeah, I was able to kind of figure out things that I did and didn't like, see how the color pencils did shading and using a blending tool if needed. But yeah, so like I did not like this combination, but you know, the light green and the orange looked fine, or the light green and purple looked fine. So yeah, some of the quotes are okay, some of them but like I said, it's kind of good just to be able to color and not worry about anything, just to play with stuff. All right, so taking that color palette, and I'm using it in Guardians of the Enchanted Forest, and I did this page. So it's kind of hard to figure out what was going to be what color since there's so much purple. Like, how do you break all that up? So I knew the antlers made the most sense for that orange color, so that's what I did. And then I knew the skin I wanted to be that light green color, and then I just picked the other areas for different purples. So the hair is kind of that light kind of grayish purple, and to bring it out a little bit more, I used a darker shade for like here for the, you know, just to give it a little bit more depth. And then to bring out some highlights, I used a white color pencil and then a white Posca. And I think that helped bring it out, because before it just kind of sat there against the other purples and you didn't really see it that well. So I'm hoping this brings it out a little bit better. And then this darker purple, I shaded with an even darker color pencil, again, just to create more depth in there. This purple has a slight like warmth to it, so some pinks in there. So I just, you know, emphasize that. I added like a brighter pink to give it more contrast between those other purples. And I also knew I wanted this orange kind of sprinkled around a little bit more, so I chose a few shades lighter, and that helped, you know, bring those out a little bit. And then I also used a copper like glitter paint pen for the leaves and her jewelry. Yeah, so I think that worked. I'm not sure if it was the right page for this color palette, but yeah, it's pretty. All right, that is it for this month's coloring. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.